All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. Let's get started with a Roelly Winklaar story. So it was just announced on Instagram that Roelly is going to be competing in the Alicante, Spain Europa Pro, which last year was the show that actually Big Ramy was originally going to compete in that he ended up missing because of the virus. And this is the show that last year the top three all qualified for the Mr. Olympia. So I believe this is going to be close to the last opportunity, aside from the Arnold Classic, to qualify for the Olympia. And I believe 1 and 2 this year will both be able to qualify. So first or second place at this Europa Pro show will both qualify for the Olympia. And Roelly Winklaar, according to the Instagram page for this Spain show, is committed to doing this show, which I find interesting. This is about a week after Tampa. So to me, it makes me wonder if Roelly is very confident in whether or not he's going to be able to make enough improvements between Chicago and Tampa. Obviously, 5th place in Chicago is not the placing that Roelly was looking for, and the bodybuilding world is kind of waiting with bated breath to see if Roelly's going to be able to make the improvements between Chicago and Tampa that are necessary to qualify for the Olympia, because Tampa is going to be a tough lineup, in all honesty. So if Roelly doesn't come correct, he's going to have a hard time in Tampa. So it makes me wonder if maybe Roelly isn't as confident in his abilities as maybe we are. I think a lot of people would like to see him make the improvements necessary between Chicago and Tampa so that he can win Tampa and go to the Olympia. But the fact that he's already committed to a show after the Olympia, to me, maybe says he's a little bit worried about being able to get that qualification and might need to do a show where not only the winner qualifies, but the top 2 qualify for the Olympia. So then he's doing the Arnold Classic after that, which would be another opportunity for Roelly. So it looks like he's not pulling any punches, and he's taking just about every opportunity that he can get to try to get to that Olympia stage, which is what we, the fans, want to see. And then hopefully, maybe even if he has these lackluster performances throughout the season, maybe he will save his best package for the Olympia. Maybe he's just, trying to qualify and maybe not trying as hard as he would for an Olympia prep. And perhaps that's why we didn't see as many physique updates from Roelly going into these qualifier shows. We saw like 1 or 2 magic mirror pictures, but typically I feel like we see a lot more from Roelly as we get closer to a show. But this time around, I feel like we haven't seen much. But it looks like we will see Roelly compete 3 more times before the Olympia between the Arnold, Tampa, and this Alicante, Spain Europa show. So I'm kind of excited to see that. Now, next up in the news, speaking of Big Ramy and speaking of guys that we don't really see a whole lot of physique updates from, or that we haven't seen a lot of physique updates from, Big Ramy, we saw a couple physique updates, not necessarily from him, but posted by Dennis James and his sponsor, which is Enhanced Labs. So this is kind of interesting because Dennis even acknowledged in his story that we haven't seen much of Ramy lately, which I think is the general consensus among bodybuilding fans, is that he hasn't really been out there much. We haven't seen anything from Ramy since he won the Olympia, basically. So Dennis says in the caption of that story, "I know it's been quiet, but he's still working." And I believe that's a reference to the fact that, like I said, we haven't seen really any recent physique updates. We've seen a lot of throwbacks from Ramy, or any real recent training videos. Again, we've seen some throwbacks from Ramy going into this next Olympia where he's planning on defending his title. So we saw this heavy deadlift video from Dennis James, and then on the Enhanced Labs page, we also saw a leg press video and a chest press video from Ramy. And again, this is really all that we've seen from Ramy over the past few months. And like I said, it's kind of interesting the fact that Ramy is the current Mr. Olympia, and part of what comes with that title, I believe, is a little bit of an obligation to be an ambassador for the sport and to be accessible to the fans as a Mr. Olympia title holder. And granted, there's a little bit of limitation on that, considering the fact that we had lockdowns this year, the virus and all that crazy stuff really prevented travel from being as easy as it used to be. So I don't really blame Ramy for not traveling as much. But in terms of interviews or public appearances, or like I said, physique updates and workout videos, I feel like it has been extremely quiet from Ramy and his camp, which I think is a little bit surprising. And to Ramy's credit, again, the travel thing isn't really his fault, but it has been extremely rare that we have seen a training video or physique update from Ramy. So I'm grateful that we got these from Enhanced Labs and from Dennis, and they are apparently recent. But I guess I would pose the question to you guys, and you guys can discuss this or answer this in the comment section down below. Do you think Ramy has done enough as Mr. Olympia in terms of being accessible to the fans, posting updates, posting training videos? Granted, none of that is really required. I mean, he doesn't have to do any of that. He doesn't have to post anything. But as bodybuilding fans, do you think Ramy has done a good job, I guess, of being out there and accessible for the fans? All things considered, all outside external factors considered, what do you think of Ramy's Olympia reign so far? And what do you think of the odds of Ramy being able to defend and repeat this year? I think the odds are decent. I would say that if Ramy is able to replicate last year's condition or better than that, then he will win the title again and will probably win the title for many years to come if he's proven that he's able to continue to replicate the conditioning, because that's been the biggest issue over his entire career. Is he's always, like we said, he's named Big Ramy for a reason. He's never had an issue with the size. He's always been big enough. He's always had enough muscle. He's always been competitive from a size standpoint with all these other guys. But conditioning was always the wild card factor with Ramy, and he nailed it last year. So if he proves this year that he knows the recipe now and he can continue to nail that conditioning, I think we're going to see Ramy reign for a long time. Now, if we don't see that, that's the question. If Ramy doesn't come in like he did last year and he comes in worse, then I think the title is up for grabs. Which brings me to my next story. Who do I think could be next in line for that title? Well, you got to start with runner-up and a former Olympia title holder himself, Brandon Curry. So Brandon Curry just posted what I believe to be a recent physique update. He just started his training back at Oxygen Gym in Kuwait with his coach, Abdullah. So he's back to business and prepping for the Olympia. And like I said, he was runner-up to Ramy last year. He won the Olympia in 2019. He's an Arnold Classic champion, one of the best. And like I said, probably next in line if Ramy comes in off. And again, the reason I believe this is a recent physique update is Brandon typically will hashtag his post with throwback or say when the picture was from if it's not recent. He doesn't have any of those hashtags on this post, so I do believe this post of Brandon is in fact recent. So technically, I think we can count that as our first physique update from Brandon Curry going into the Olympia. And I really think he has a shot at maybe winning a second title, and it's going to be entirely dependent, I think, on the conditioning that Ramy brings. Because it's been so hit or miss with Ramy. Keep in mind that earlier in 2020, Ramy was third at the Arnold Classic. And then just months later at the Olympia, he was able to do something completely different and win. So going from not being able to even be in the top 2 at the Arnold to winning the Olympia is a pretty big transformation. So we'll see if he's able to do that again for this year's Olympia. I think it really is a big wild card factor there, the conditioning with Ramy. And hopefully we get to see that conditioned version of Ramy again. And now the final story that I have for you guys today, in a recent interview, I guess it was an interview, it was a clip taken from his Twitch. I saw this posted on a couple of websites. Thor answers the question, Hafthor Bjornsson, would he fight or be willing to fight Logan Paul in a boxing match? And he goes on to say, essentially, yes, he would fight him. So I'm going to roll that clip for you guys here.
I mean, Logan Paul fought Floyd Mayweather, and there's some height difference between those guys, plus weight difference. Logan Paul is 188 centimeters tall. I'm 205. What's Floyd? I think it's like similar height differences from Floyd to Logan and from Logan to me, but probably more weight difference though. But if he would want to fight me, I wouldn't say no.
So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys know that Thor is not going to be fighting Eddie Hall in September because Eddie was injured. You guys also know that there's a possibility he might fight Mariusz Pudzianowski, who's also a 5-time World's Strongest Man to Thor's 1 World's Strongest Man title. But would you like to see Thor fight Logan Paul? And Thor brings up the fact in that in that clip that the height difference between Logan and Mayweather was similar to the height difference between him and Logan Paul, but the weight difference would be probably the big thing there. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. As always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.